This is the Dog Savant Podcast with your host, Brett Endies.
Hello, and welcome to the Dog Savant Podcast. This is episode 14. I'm Brett. I am your host. Today we are going to talk about, as we do often, properly walking your dog. I cannot emphasize the importance of how beneficial a structured walk can be for your dog on so many fronts. So we will talk about some of those. First, I want to just talk about some of the business end of things, I guess if you call it business. Rate, review, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. We're also on YouTube, Vimeo. I think we're on now Google Play. Google Play will be on Amazon, that listening platform they have. We're all over the place. The Untrainables will be out this weekend. If you're watching this, it may be out already. It is the 15th is the season premiere or the series premiere. It's on Facebook Watch. The Untrainables, if you subscribe to that channel, it'll update with new episodes and any other things going on related to the show. I'm Brett Endies. I'm a dog trainer. I'm here in Los Angeles. If you haven't seen the podcast or seen me before, and I do this podcast to share information, current events, talk a little bit about my life and what's happening. I like to use it as a compliment to my show that's coming out or is already out now. So you get to know me more, know who I am, and share some of the information that has proven to help a lot of dog owners in the past as far as my individual clients that I've been working with for over 2 decades now. And I talked about in the last podcast, I apologize for the previous ones. I'm still getting the groove here, getting the feel for things, especially with the video version, and doing it by myself. We'll have guests, but mostly here it's just me. So I have to think about things I'm going to say to make this, make sense and be entertaining. So sometimes I have to think, so it's like I'm looking down, but I'm paying attention to you guys. I love you guys, but people have commented, you got to look at the camera more. So I'm going to try my best to be conscious of that. And people complain about curse words. Look, I'm from New York. I talk the way I talk. I'll try to keep it PG-13 if I can, but things get said. Hopefully people aren't getting offended. I think in the dog training or dog behavior world, being politically correct really doesn't have much to do with it. So a show about it might not always be politically correct either. So walking with a dog, leash walking. We talk a lot about this. We talk about, I think there's other podcasts I've already done, after only 14, I think we've had 1 or 2 other ones that have had that subject, as what the podcast was about. So walking, why is it important? Because leash-related issues, I find, is probably 75% of the reasons why people call me for my services. And I've seen thousands of cases and have learned that a dog improperly walked, which I'll describe what that means, can lead to so many issues, anything from simply a dog rushing up to people, jumping on people, and then things as bad as reactivity, aggression, social limitations, and then taking off if they're not on a leash because they're always in an overprojected, overexcited state when out and about, especially connected to a leash near their owner. So we do not want a dog. What does that look like, right? A dog walking ahead, a dog scanning and going from side to side, a dog reacting mostly at other dogs or other sounds, or when they hear loud sounds like trucks and garbage can lids, they back away or they bark and they overreact. There's always some kind of hypervigilance. They're usually ahead, or when they see something, they shoot ahead. And this tends to not be redirected or prevented on the part of the owner. Sometimes it's by lack of awareness, which has to be brought to the forefront of the owner's thinking and understanding. It could be the wrong equipment. So there's an effort. The owner's trying, but they're doing something like a harness. And now the dog's getting more frustrated because you're triggering that opposition reflex. And as safe as we think harnesses are, in reality, if your dog has a leash walking issue or a walking issue, it ends up with them actually getting more confirmation of why they're pulling and putting stress on their body for a very long period of time, because you're only going to make the problem worse and never resolve it. So that's really the state of walking where the dog is most likely to have other secondary issues. Like, I don't mind my dog's excited to walk or on a retractable leash getting ahead, but then you wonder why they react to the next dog, because when a dog shows up in front of them, it invokes a startle response, and that is, like I said in the last podcast, the sensory overload. In podcast 13, we talk a lot about the overstimulated state that drives these dogs to become reactive or not listen or have anxiety. And this is exactly what happens when they're already walking on their walk like they're in hyperspace. And then when they see a dog, it's the most intense thing they're going to encounter as far as stimuli or social interaction. That's why most dogs, again, are reactive to dogs and not necessarily with people. It's just when they see a dog, they're so ahead of themselves, they see that as a perceived threat. They don't even see it. They feel it as a perceived threat. It's too much information and too intense for them for the position they've put themselves in. So, again, there's a lot of reasons why a dog, and then I always say, like, if your dog is always ready to go, you'll never get them to be trustworthy off leash, because anything they see or any new situation or environment, they're going to take off and they're not going to look back, and they could be in the middle of a street or running up to a dog that isn't safe or whatever, right? So very good to invest in your dog's walking. Now, what does the proper walk look like? It's a dog that's walking next to you, or at least ahead of you focused, or slightly behind you, but it's their mindset. They're observing. They're not reacting. That's a huge difference, okay? They're taking the information, but taking it in like metered versus intense. That dogs are not that controlling of their sensory processing. So once it comes into intense, the external reaction is going to be intense as a response. So we have to walk them in a calm, filtered way, a nice heel, let's go walking command, promoting them to walk on one side, getting them to focus. We talk a lot about this in a lot of my other podcast episodes, a lot of the information in my YouTube channel, my web series, we talk about this. Talk about this in the Untrainables as well. A lot of walking, a lot of how dogs being overprojected even leads to home-based issues. So walking your dog in a focused way, promoting that. Don't even worry about finding dogs right now. Wait for that. Get your dog, build that muscle, get him to walk with purpose, get him to feel led. Put the equipment in the proper position, wearing something up higher behind their ears versus something that pulls back on them. Even a collar falling low is going to make them want to pull against you. You need something, either a slip collar or a training collar, a star mark collar, a pinch collar. These things are not bad for dogs. It actually promotes a calm, focused walk, and it gets them to feel that they can walk without that pulling, that over projection. So for dogs, unfortunately, that we promote even in the equipment because it makes sense to our emotions. And that's even other episodes where I've talked about how our emotions make certain things seem like they are going to help because of how they're marketed to us, or how, look, these pet companies that make the gentle leaders and the harnesses and the treat, all this stuff that's more passive and doesn't even think the way that I'm trying to teach you guys to think here in this podcast. Sure, I want to lose weight. I don't want to carry a 40-pound pack in the mountains in the 90-degree heat. But it's the only way I'm going to get stronger. It's not going to be through a pill. If I want to lose weight, I have to eat better. I have to stay aware and conscious. If I want to be a better person, I have to keep myself present. And that takes growth, which is not always comfortable. It's not always emotionally fun either, but it has to happen for me to have a more fulfilling, balanced life and have a more balanced state of mind. And dogs are no different. We just have to do that for them because nobody's going to take me up to the mountains and put the pack on me. I have to do it myself. For our dogs, I can teach my dog how to navigate life by controlling my own emotions and seeing the reality of what's going on. In one of my episodes, I think the first episode, I know it's the first episode, they have me walk, they walk me in the episode. Why do I do it? To be silly a little bit, but I also do it because I want people to see that if I have this collar on me, how is it going to hurt the dog if we use it properly? It's just going to promote something that instinctively makes more sense because dogs steer each other. And I'm not going to get into a whole how to walk your dog episode. We did that already. But I do want to talk about the idea of that, how letting a dog walk ahead or become overstimulated on a walk and then using the wrong equipment to deal with it or to create the problem is directly why these dogs have issues. Every dog can walk properly. Every dog cannot have reactivity. But it takes us to get over our emotional, hesitancies and see. And I get it. I'm not being callous to I know what it would look like, right? But I also would listen to people who've used it and trust their word and trust the professionals who have a proven track record instead of letting someone come to your house like the purely positive trainers who pander to your emotions and they will make you confirm that it's okay to feel that way, and then you're never going to address the issue. And these are unfortunately the mindsets that end up with dogs never getting better, a lifelong of misery, inconvenience and misery for the owners, the human end of the leash as well. And in the worst case scenario, these dogs are put down, put on medication, given like an untrainable, no pun intended, prognosis, and that's not the case because I see these dogs thousands of times over, and I never ever have had a problem by approaching it at its root cause. And I'm telling you, I have a lot of dog owners telling me the backstory of what the last trainer or the veterinarian or their personal opinion was. And I've had a lot of dog owners be scared of using the equipment and transitioning from a harness to a properly fitted training collar. But once I show them it's not killing their dog, look, they're always happier. Nobody's come back to tell me that anything bad happened to their dog, and it would have happened by now. And everybody's telling me how their dog's quality of life and theirs is so much better because we addressed the issue and we didn't punish the dog. We didn't reward the dog. We got the dog into a balanced, content state. We got the dog focused, connected with the dog, and their life was rewarding and fulfilling in itself. And sure, treats and all that can come into place, but we have to get to the root cause, and then all of a sudden, things work out themselves. Dogs get it. They understand intuitively. This isn't like we're teaching them a trick or a skill. This is just nature and the relationship we have to promote that connection. That would make them, I don't want to get too hippy-dippy, but it really is about them trusting us and us being this team that works together instead of our energy being separate, which is what makes dogs overreact and have that independent response when out on a walk. Okay, so I think that briefs it up. We're keeping these podcasts short sometimes. Sometimes they're longer. I assume when we get some guests, we'll get a little bit more length in them. Let's see. So again, the Untrainables. I think you're going to be watching this, seeing this, and hearing this after it's out. But September 15th, it's coming out. I'm headed to Colorado today, so I'll be off enjoying myself. Let's see. Don't forget to subscribe and rate, review this podcast, also on YouTube and all that good stuff. And my website, dogtrainingla.com or thedogsavant.com, takes you to the same place. That'll get all the basics covered if you want to get to my YouTube page or contact me. And I think that's the information. Anything else, Jordan?
Sounds good.
We're good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's that. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Train your dog.